source of thought without obstruction, our actions gain support of the total potential of natural law and spontaneously bring achievement and fulfillment to every area of our lives. And we see this all the time. And we know that ordinarily our minds are just active all the time. From the moment we wake up until the time we fall asleep, there are thoughts bubbling up in our minds. The thought is inexhaustible. And our thoughts are possibilities that spring up from the field of all possibilities. And so the thought might just be like this boy thinking about sitting under an oak tree, enjoying the shade. And so that's the thought. The action is planting the acorn, the seed, and watering it and tending it. And still he feels that achievement of the growing tree and sees that, and then can sit under the shade of the tree. But when this is happening in our lives over and over again each day, this process. And so we have our thought, and as the thoughts reach the surface of our mind, they become more concrete until they stop being possibilities and turn into action. And just simple things like, if we feel hungry, we might make a snack to eat. It's delicious and we feel satisfied. So there's that cycle over and over again throughout the day. And in all the fields of learning, we can see that thinking is always at the basis of our success and fulfillment. For example, in mathematics, our knowledge of how to organize information enables us to create graphs, or our ability to compute or think through the steps of an equation helps us to solve problems. And so before we go on, especially for the school and the young children, I want to share Rajeshri Emley's song for this principle, which is just delightful again. So I'll play that.
We reach every goal that's deep inside, using 4 steps as our guide. We have a thought that's number 1. We clearly think what should be done, and from that thought we follow through by taking action. Number 2, success in action naturally brings achievement. Number 3, we feel the joy, our spirits soar in fulfillment. Number 4, thought, action, achievement, fulfillment. At the end of the day, we say, we reach every goal that's deep inside, using 4 steps as our guide. We have a thought that's number 1. We clearly think what should be done, and from that thought we follow through by taking action. Number 2, success in action naturally brings achievement. Number 3, we feel the joy, our spirits soar in fulfillment. Number 4, thought, action, achievement, fulfillment. At the end of the day, we say.
Okay, so there's 2 lovely examples, kicking a goal in soccer or riding a horse. But the younger children can think of anything that they would desire and map out the steps of thought, action, achievement, and fulfillment in achieving that goal and enjoying the fulfillment. Oops, I'll move that on. And this can happen especially in high schools, but if you're doing a science project or any project, or you can ask them to create a new product and the steps that they would take to do that, create a garden, if they're thinking to start a new hobby or a new activity. Get them to map out the thought, action, achievement and fulfillment to achieve that goal. And this one here this is also from Kathy Alto, her illustration. So this is with science, you know, she's thinking of a science experiment. Can fruit generate electricity? And so you see the experiment that she sets up to test that out. And then her achievement is to present this and the results of her investigation in maybe a science fair. And she's got a prize for that. So that's, she's enjoying that fulfillment. But that fulfillment also comes from inside. It doesn't have to be that you win a prize or it's acknowledged from the outside. Even that joy of gaining more knowledge and seeing something through to its completion, that inner fulfillment is very important in the steps of progress. Okay, and we can see this in any subject that we're studying in great literature. When we read books, great books, we often find tales of heroes who have a thought or desire to go off on a quest, and then they achieve great goals and bring fulfillment to all. And I think there's so many examples of that in Indian literature. You know, you'll have no trouble finding a book to give the students an example of this. And in the arts, whether it's great composers or painters, dancers, sculptors, they always begin their projects with an idea or a vision, a thought, and they want to follow it through to its conclusion, and so that we have a masterpiece to enjoy. And in the field of science, the thoughts of scientists lead to the exploration of new frontiers, new discoveries, and new applications, and the creation of inventions which improve the quality of life for all of us. And so in science, you can study some of these great discoveries and the way that they have improved life for us. And for those interested in strategic games, then, and I think one of the examples today already referred to that, each move, there's, you know, that many possibilities for each move. Which piece will I move? Particularly in the game of Go, if anyone plays that. But so each move, there's thoughts and there's a process going on. If I move this piece here, what will my opponent do? What will the next step be? And so there's that thought, and then the moving the pieces, the action. Then we have achievement when we place it in the correct position, and fulfillment. Now, the fulfillment and achievement don't always mean that we win the game. By playing a game and learning from the opponent some better moves to make, that can also be a fulfillment of being engaged in that game as well. And looking at our thoughts, it's the power and the quality of our thoughts that determine the power and quality of our actions, and whether or not we'll achieve our goal and find fulfillment. And we'll know that those mornings that we wake up and we think, oh, will I finish this assignment, or will I go to the park, or will I call a good friend, or will I just stay here and rest? And if our thinking is not powerful, then we might not end up doing anything. We're just deliberating all day about whether I'll do this or not. But those mornings when we wake up and there's a strong intention, I'm going to complete this project today, and so we follow through with that project and have that achievement and fulfillment. And when all the stresses are gone, then we have that, we experience that pathless path. That source of thought to the surface level of the mind is clear, and our thoughts retain the full value of the total potential of natural law at their source, and they are automatically and always big. And I love this quote from Maharishi, and this comes from 1988, just before Maharishi went into silence in December. And he said, this year, think big. This year, whatever you desire will come true. Think big. Think of everything beautiful for you. Think of heaven on earth. Think of elimination of poverty for the world. No longer should we be stuck with our little mind. No longer should we use our nervous system for little problems. We should use our nervous system for the revelations of the cosmic mind. Our mind should no longer be restricted to narrow boundaries, particularly the boundaries of patriotism. The world is a family. We should have in our mind that I own the universe, then the universe will own you. We will become masters of natural law. So that's thinking big and thinking from that level within, that field of all possibility within. And all great actions and achievements begin with someone's thoughts. So think first and then act. And as I mentioned in that talk by Maharishi on the role of students in making the nation invincible, you know, he refers to the actions of great people who have had that ability to think from that deepest level. And as Aristotle says, and actually Maharishi has said many, many times, well begun is half done. So when you're teaching this principle to your students, then you can look at the people who have been successful in a particular field, whether they're leaders or change makers, inventors, or, and get the students to map out that process that these people have gone through in achieving those great successes. And some of the examples, and you'll have some from India particularly, but some of the examples that I like to use, because I was in Thailand, and you may remember this, when the boys on a soccer team were caught in a cave and the cave was flooding and they weren't able to get out. But they had creative minds from all around the world working on this problem, coming together to find a way of getting the boys from the cave. So when I was teaching this to young children, Year 9 students in Thailand, I used this example for this principle, and the students in groups then mapped out the thought, the action, achievement and fulfillment of this quest to get the boys out of the cave. And so, you know, we know it's the natural tendency to grow. We saw that in our very first principle. And human life always begins in for this growth and progress. It always begins with a thought or a desire in the mind for some fulfillment. And then that thought moves us to action. And when we achieve our goal, there's some fulfillment gained. Our thoughts move us to action to achieve more. It might be preparing an assignment or writing an essay that requires some research and creativity, or you might be writing an original story or a poem or creating a song. And this requires us to think very precisely and plan. Or we might want to, and this is a good thing to have students do, plan an event or a celebration. It might be just a class celebration where they display their work, or there's an important day coming up, and they can plan that using those steps of thought, action, achievement and fulfillment, just to give them the experience of that. And a few other examples, and I don't need to go into this because you know these people so well. You know, the study of humanity is just filled with stories of great leaders whose comprehensive, original and creative thoughts improve the quality of life for people throughout history. And these people, just two examples, are Nelson Mandela and Mahatma Gandhi. And one current one, which a woman I really admire, is the principal of a school in Thailand. It's a Buddhist nun school called Damajarini. And she has worked to create a most beautiful education for now over 1,000 girls. And these are girls who otherwise would not have been able to have an education. They were orphans or from very poor situations. And she's raised funds to create just beautiful buildings for them, incredible resources. And she offers this all free. So they're fed, they're clothed and housed there while they're receiving a wonderful education. And those girls all practice transcendental meditation, and over 700, I think 750 of them now are practicing the TM City program. So this lady, Achanyai, the principal of this school, is not only providing an education for these girls and future leaders for Thailand, but she's also just establishing a peace-creating group, a coherence-creating group within her country. And the size of the group, it allows that coherence to spread beyond Thailand. So just a wonderful story. And I'm sure you can, access stories from within India now of people who have done really wonderful things for the people who are less fortunate, and as a result, improve society, improve the country. And some of you will be very familiar with this story, the seagull story that Maharishi tells. I don't know whether I need to repeat it. And someone asked Maharishi about the history of the TM movement and how that started and where it is. And he, in talking about that, gave them the story of this seagull and the mother seagull who laid her eggs by the shore, and the sea came up and washed the eggs away. And of course, the mother seagull was very distressed, so she calls on the sea to return her eggs, and the sea, of course, took no notice. And so the father seagull comes along as well, and together they're pleading with the sea to return the eggs. And the sea again is taking no notice. So they said to the sea, return the eggs or we will drink you dry. And, you can imagine the sea would be quite amused by this. But they started so that the thought is they wanted the eggs back. The action was to go to the sea, take a beak full of water and drop it at the shore. And they just continued with this. They intended to drink the sea dry. And so other birds, seeing them doing this, came in to join in and give their support. And so many, many birds were flying from the shore to the sea, taking a beak of water and dropping it back over on the shore. Anyway, this action by these birds gained the attention of the king of all the birds. Now, the king of the birds is like gaining the support of natural law. So the king of the birds swoops in, and the sea knows the power of the king of the birds and just washes the eggs back to the shore again. So these two small seagulls were able to achieve this, their thought, the action which gained the support of nature and brought achievement, and then of course there was just joy and fulfillment as the eggs were brought back. And so this, you can see how this describes the growth of the TM organization, with Maharishi coming and just giving those first lectures to what we have now, and just gaining more and more support and spreading further and further throughout the world. And really the message is, individual peace. And as we said, with many, many individuals practicing the technique of TM and the TM City program, and especially when they do it in a group, then the result, the achievement is the creation of a more peaceful world, and that brings to fulfillment to everyone. And as Maharishi said, peace is not on the level of understanding. It is not on the basis of discussion, persuasive procedures have always failed. It is on the basis of creating the effect that disharmony will not exist. So that's creating that coherence within, and through that powerful coherence, then disharmony cannot exist. And SCI gives us the knowledge that we all share the same root, that pure creative intelligence, which is the innermost layer of everything. And so we see that we are not only nourishing the root of our own happiness, but by meditating together, we are watering the root for everyone on earth. And in this way, we're helping to create a peaceful world. So when we look at verifying the principle in our own practice of TM, we know, and I think we become more aware of this when we learn to meditate, that I remember so many times when we're checking people's meditation in the beginning and we ask them when they close their eyes and sit for a moment if they experienced a thought, and usually that quite often you'll get people in the group that say no, they don't experience a thought. But I think, you know, through practicing TM, we come to realize that normally our mind is active the whole day. One thought comes after the other, as we said, inexhaustible. And each thought is a possibility that bubbles up from the field of all possibilities. And when they reach the surface of the mind, they stop being a possibility and they become a specific impulse of action. And through the regular practice of TM and the TM City program, we give our minds a chance to rest, to experience the silent field of all possibilities at the source of thought. And as we know, when we give our minds a chance to rest, our thinking becomes clearer and our actions more dynamic and effective. And the possibilities that were our thoughts become actions that achieve their goals. So the possibilities become solutions that bring fulfillment. So you can see how clearly the two principles go together. That field of all possibilities is the source of all solutions. And then that next step to see that thought that comes from that field of all possibilities leads to action, then achievement and fulfillment. Okay, so let's just give you a moment now to do a quick end of lesson summary, and you can expand on this during the week and bring your presentations back. So the first step, as we always do, is in our own words, please write down what you think is the most important or central point of the lesson. And that's just one sentence, and then follow that with showing how this point relates to what you know about the full development of consciousness, to the development of your creative potential as a result of your practice of TM and the TM City program, and then draw a diagram or an illustration that puts together these 2 points. So we'll give you just a few minutes at least to make a start on that before we go on to our consciousness-based principle of communication and behaviour with students. Okay, so let's just have one now. I'm just wondering if Mudita's there. You're always very good at summarising and giving a central point. Would you like to try that? Jay Gurdev, would you like to put your camera on so we can see you? Great. Yes, can you pull your camera down so your faces are on the screen? We can just see the top of your face. That's better. Okay, good.
Yeah, can you hear me? Actually, there's a lot of problem. The internet is quite unstable right now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so what about it was action leads to fulfillment. So whenever we take the action from that level of consciousness, or when we, like Marshiji says, like it's been said in a very beautiful manner, that we go inside, we stabilize, and from that level of consciousness, when we perform the action, we are not attached to the results. And when we are not attached to the results, then definitely our actions taken are the right and spontaneous actions, and these right and spontaneous actions definitely lead us to fulfillment.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Great. And would anyone else like to give an example before we move on to... Oh, no, go on, keep going. Mudita, did you have more? Okay, so anyone else? From the school, there's an example then.
Shamli, are you there? Shamir sir?
Okay, so what we'll do is allow you to work on that during the week, and also just see in your own environment, in your studies, or in interests that you might have, how you see examples of thought leads to action, action leads to achievement, and achievement leads to fulfillment. And we'll hear some more of those examples. Oh, we won't be meeting next week, but the week after that. So you have 2 weeks to do that. So no lesson next week, but the following week. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll put up this principle for you so you can all read that. Can you see this on the screen? I'll just go there.
Yes.
Now, this is quite long, so I think we might need to break this up because we haven't got a lot of time. And it's such an important principle of communication and behaviour with students, and at all levels, whether they're, 5 years old or whether you're teaching university students. This same principle applies. And this is Principle 8. The teacher maintains and communicates high expectations and standards for students' behaviour. So the first point under that, as teachers, we establish and maintain clear expectations of our students in their speech, which we discussed when we looked at Principle 5, behaviour and academic performance. We are responsible to guide students in a way that is evolutionary for them and for the collective consciousness of the institution as a whole. These standards are always maintained with a feeling of love and respect, which we saw last week in last week's principle. And point B, it is right for teachers to tell students what is right and help them refrain from doing wrong. It is cruel and damaging to the interests of society not to guide and shape the thought and behaviour of the younger generation through a combination of love and discipline. It is the responsibility of the older generation to advise the young. Even if the young people resent and do not obey the direction, it is right to tell them. They will find out for themselves the result of not obeying their elders. If the elders do not speak at all and leave the youth to find out for himself what is wrong, they have wasted his time and by implication been cruel to him. In failing to speak while knowing what was not right or helpful in his life, they have failed to help him on the right way. So you'll recognise that is coming from the Science of Being and Art of Living. And point C, we always apply the following fundamental principle to inspire our students to meet the standards we have set. And this is that a good teacher appreciates the good qualities of his student. If one good quality is allowed to emerge, a world of good qualities will arise from that one. A good teacher brings out the good qualities in the students. And we've looked at that before, and the importance of when we're correcting behaviour, always to start with the positive qualities in the student, and so gain their receptivity to us, and then we can point out some delicate features, something that we like to see them improve in, and then of course finish with allowing them to see that that goal is achievable. Okay, so D, maintaining orderly and disciplined behaviour. To help our students evolve to higher states of consciousness, we maintain standards of disciplined and orderly behaviour in class. The class should proceed in a disciplined, orderly way. A disciplined life means always moving towards success. Maintaining order and discipline is more easily and effectively achieved when the students feel the teacher's genuine affection for them. Like supporting a young tree from all directions, discipline assures the student's straight growth and progress towards living life in accordance with natural law. Discipline is always maintained with an inner feeling of love. Students should be nurtured in love and corrected if they are wrong to help them succeed in life at all levels. And E, we used an enlightened approach to correcting or disciplining our students. If a student has not met his or her responsibilities or done something wrong, it should be addressed. We can follow these guidelines. So the first, correction or discipline should occur as soon as possible after the inappropriate behaviour has occurred, i.e., not at the end of the week if the action took place at the beginning of the week, and in private so as not to unduly embarrass the student. And the second point, our angle in administering discipline is that we communicate with the students in a dignified, moderate manner, full of love, respect, and forgiveness. And the third, again, we apply this principle. If we want to guide a student to greater progress when there has been some challenge or problem, we begin by recognising the student's strengths and contribution. These comments should be concrete, specific, and genuine. Then immediately follow with a better behaviour that we expect from the student. We give a clear direction for progress with specific concrete ways to